Hello and welcome to a live Kerfefe break on Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. Today is Friday, August 26th. Happy Friday, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We have a couple things to talk about, and I have a great group of friends here today. Without further ado, before I bring them on, let me just say this. My church, if you would like to find out more info about them, I'm supposed to have an ad finished, but it's not finished. If you'd like to find out more info about them, you can go to thechurchonthesquare.org. And we meet every Sunday at 10 a.m. right on the square in Georgetown, Texas. And I hope to see you there some Sunday if you're in the Austin area. And if you're not, you can go to their website and watch all the videos if you want. So there you go. Okay, so today I have Sara Higdon and Mike Harlow joining me just to talk about what's going on. Hey, guys.
Hey, fam.
Hey, I'm actually here today.
Sara, that was my fault. You guys, I asked Sara to be on the Monday show, but we got the dates confused because I messaged her too late at night, and so she didn't get it till the next day. So anyway, it was actually...
I'm here.
You're here. I was like, I messaged her like, "Are you coming today?" She's like, "I'm at the gym."
I was playing pickleball.
I need to start doing that.
And it was actually good because I did it unplugged by myself, and that I was always really nervous just to not have friends to talk to about stuff, to have a conversation. I'm like, what do I do if I'm not having a conversation? Like, what do people want to hear? But it was fine. It was okay. So
yeah, I jumped on and I checked it. It sounded everything was good from what I saw.
If left to my own devices, I think I fear that I would just talk about country music and boots the whole time. People were like, what show is this? So why don't you guys, I know you're frequent guests on Kerfefe Break on Deprogrammed, but for anybody who's new, who might just be checking in, can you just introduce yourselves and tell people where to find you?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for me, just go to my website, sarahhigdon.com. You can also on Twitter and Instagram at Sara Higdon with an underscore, and then just youtube.com/Sara Higdon. But my website has all my links.
You're so official. I feel like I can't quite justify myself having a website. Like I need to, I don't know. I need more of a reason website. I would just feel like an asshole having a website otherwise. I mean, you do things to justify it. Me, I'm like, what am I going to put?
I try, because you can. I mean, yeah, my website you can get like all my articles and stuff that I've written so far, or the 2 I've written so far. But yeah, so I try to put everything on there, like links to everywhere else you can find me as well.
I can have a link on there. Here, click for my best dick jokes. Oh yeah, though, find me on my stuff. I'm on Twitter at @NotMikeHarlow or Instagram @SleepyHarlow _. That underscore drives me crazy. What do you guys think of like? Okay, so I'm trying to change my Instagram name. What do you think of Mike Row Aggression? Is that good? Is that bad?
I like it. I mean, people aren't gonna find you, so I think that's the problem. Is everybody knows your last name?
Yeah, you should. I think you should keep your name in there somehow. I like Sleepy Harlow because that's a good pun too. But
well, I had to put the underscore to get myself out of this cycle of banning, to get myself off their list or whatever. And then some bitch took my Sleepy Harlow. So there's another Sleepy Harlow now, and I have to be Sleepy Harlow _. So
are they getting banned like crazy?
I hope so. No, don't even get me started on friggin' Bunny Harlow. She is on my shit list. Did I tell you about that? This person who's so every version of my name is taken everywhere, and this person who's at Mike Harlow on Instagram turns out is this woman named Bunny Harlow. And for some reason, her handle is just Mike Harlow. So I feel like out of spite, I'm just going to make my handle @Bunny Harlow. Like, you're going to take my name, I'll take your name.
Can I tell you guys, this wasn't on my list for today, but you're making me think of this crazy Instagram people. I just watched this documentary. It's only an hour long, and it's called The Dark Side of the Fat Acceptance Movement. And I want to talk to the guy who made it. I really want to have him on the show. But anyway, here's the thing about it. If you guys want to watch it, it's called The Dark Side of the Fat Acceptance Movement. Those of you who've been, and I know I have a lot of knitters watching. Hello, knitters. Those of you who've been through the social justice knitting wars, you will appreciate this film because it sort of documents a similar war, but in the fat acceptance side of Instagram. But what's crazy about it is you think it's just going to be about what's wrong with like the social justice rot within the fat acceptance movement, but it's actually really more about this one psychopath named Grandma Gary, and on Instagram who controls like all these underlings, like kind of like a cult of people who attack her enemies for her and do things. It's really sick and twisted.
Like relatable.
It sounds very relatable.
I think there's that type of stuff in every group, especially like the far left activist groups that do this. Like there is a hashtag on Twitter, right, where there's like low level accounts go around and it's like Twitter janitorial or something like that. Like they're cleaning up Twitter. And so like if you see that like in a tweet, it means that they're calling to get you banned. Like they're calling to get all these mass reportings, because that's like that's what's been happening to Gays Against Groomers, is that they've been mass reported multiple times, and actually the last time they got banned, they saw that hashtag in one of their things and they called it out, like, we see you. Like, we know where you guys are mass reporting. That's why they keep coming back, because it's just false black mass reporting that's been getting them knocked off.
Yeah, that's in this documentary. They do this. And there's several other, she goes by Grandma Gary, and there's other grandmas underneath her, like Grandma Amelia and stuff.
Where's
the documentary? I think was on one of those apps called like Tubi or something. But if you look up The Dark Side of the Fat Acceptance Movement, you'll find it. And it's just fascinating.
There definitely ain't no light side of the fat acceptance movement.
Yeah, it's social justice that's infiltrated it. It's like social justice kind of takes these things with positive intent, like being opposed to racism, being opposed to bullying of fat people, being opposed to sexism. It takes those things and then it moves into them and just completely corrupts them and turns them into the monster itself, like the monster that you're supposed to be fighting. One of the women interviewed in the doc, she was talking about how she was in one of these fat acceptance Facebook groups, and she posted they had all these rules, right? Like you're not allowed to post any progress pics if you're trying to lose weight, none allowed. She posted a photo. She wasn't trying to lose weight, but she had lost some weight. She posted like a vacation picture in the group after having been in there for a long time. And they all flipped out. They were like, "Did you lose weight?" And she said, "Not on purpose. Yeah, I've lost a little." And they're like, "Done. You're out of the group. Nobody loses weight in this group." You know? And completely like, and then they started going, and they started going through her personal profile and finding pictures. They were like, "We saw you took pictures at the gym." You know, like that's a bad thing. And she's like, "I wasn't even working out at the gym. I was babysitting kids at the gym." But like you were at the gym, out of the group. Like they became this very intolerant, hateful, they say healthy at any size, which is, first of all, not true. But if you actually believed that, then you wouldn't have a problem with her size decreasing.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't have that problem with it, but they did. It's crazy.
It very much is a cult. All these things you start to see cults everywhere, which is kind of like, well, okay, because it's interesting, because when you see like stuff like that, they demonize anybody who goes against their narrative, and or like you said, tries to lose weight. It's very much, that's a Saul Alinsky tactic to attack the people as they are leaving. It's why we see detransitioners being attacked so much, because they were once held up. It's why we see people like you, Keri, who left the left, get attacked a whole lot more than somebody like me, who's always been on the right. Same with you, Mike, too, because you left the left as well. But it's like I was always on the right, so I don't see as much of the hate, because what they do is they make people fear to leave.
Leaving.
So leaving is much worse than staying, because they will make your life hell if you leave. And that's the key. They fear people into staying in the cult.
Yeah, like Scientology.
Yeah, very much like Scientology.
I know Mikey is officially listed as a suppressive person.
Stay suppressive, my friends.
He's officially an enemy.
Sorry, not to go on a tangent, but I've been looking at places in Florida, and Clearwater is so nice and so lovely, but it's like a Scientology town. They've overtaken it.
Yeah.
And it's like
it's not that. It's actually not that bad.
Really?
It's not that bad though. Yeah, I have family that lives over in that area, and then we have a lot of mutual friends probably that live down in St. Pete as well. So
that's what I keep hearing is really nice.
St. Pete is beautiful. That's where I went down there with Ariel last time I was down in Florida, and we went and saw David and Jonna.
I want to go.
We went to the beach. It was so fun.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like go off about Florida.
Oh no, you're fine.
I'm sorry.
Well, speaking of cults, I wanted to share this, which has been cracking me up for like a full day. I don't know if people saw this yesterday, but there was this podcast. It's called the Podcast Movement, and they had a conference, like an expo in Texas, and they apparently they sold a booth to the Daily Wire, like because the Daily Wire has podcasts, and then Ben Shapiro showed up at the booth and they freaked out. And I guess they got some complaints from some woke people that he actually deigned to appear at his own booth at the conference. And so this is just part of their multi-tweet apology from yesterday. I'm going to read these three. It was longer than this, but I'm just going to read these three. It said, "Hi folks, we owe you an apology before sessions kick off for the day. Yesterday afternoon, Ben Shapiro briefly visited the PM22 Expo area near the Daily Wire booth. Though he was not registered or expected, we take full responsibility for the harm done by his presence."
The harm! The hurt and the harm and the violence!
The harm. And then just look at this last one. "Those of you who called this unacceptable are right. In 9 wonderful years growing and celebrating this medium, PM has made mistakes. The pain caused by this one will always stick with us. We promise that sponsors will be more carefully considered." Anyway, it goes on and on. But I just love that. So the pain caused by this mistake will always stick with us.
My biggest question about this is, I mean, did they not think that the Daily Wire would cause the same amount of stir as just Ben Shapiro? Do they not know that Ben Shapiro is the founder of Daily Wire? I mean, I actually think Lauren Chen had the best. Like her response to this was quite. It was perfect actually, because it was like, I aspire to be so, out there like Ben Shapiro is, where my mere presence brings these people to their knees.
Yes.
That's the level of power that I aspire to have.
Also, if you can't handle Ben Shapiro, it should really show that like they can't handle anyone disagreeing with them 1% if he's too spicy for them.
I know, he's so like middle of the road conservative.
Also, like his presence, like, is it just me, or is the shit that these people say, it's always kind of like a little genocide-y sounding?
Well, and out of all the people on Daily Wire, is probably one of the more moderate, reasonable people over there. I mean, I don't mind a lot of the people over there, but like Brett Cooper's great, Ben Shapiro's pretty good, but then you have like Matt Walsh, who throws out a decent take and then like just a 10 awful takes, it's like, so, and then Michael Knowles has been going the Matt Walsh route lately too, with throwing out these awful takes. So it's like Ben Shapiro is one of the like more moderate people over at Daily Wire now.
He's not a flamethrower or anything. It's so funny. Well, you made a good point, Mikey, is that the serious side of this, because I was making fun of it, and I think we should make fun of stuff like this. It's hilarious. But there's a serious side of it, which the serious side of it is what you pointed out. They want you to treat some people in society like untouchables. people who are not welcome in polite society as if I mean that dehumanizes people, that they're treating it as if he's subhuman.
I actually messaged these people.
Oh, you did?
They didn't get back to me. I was so upset because, like, do you ever have like full on like fantasies of full on conversations in your head with some people? So I was dying to say this. So I don't know if you saw the tweet after. They made it sound like they're just going to have full on therapy sessions with the people for the hurt and the harm and the violence. So they were like, we're here to talk. We're here for all of you to talk at any time. So I messaged them. I was like, I need to talk. And they didn't get back to me. But what I really wanted to say is I wanted to tell them how I'm like traumatized with this, that I can't believe what they did. Do they realize what they did? And then have them like grovel. And then I wanted to turn it around on them and say, how could you have a Jew there? Because it's the same demonization. I just wanted to flip the reasoning on them and show how it sounds when you swap the justification.
The justification for acting that way, yeah.
Isn't that really interesting too? That it was Ben Shapiro that they did this with, and you're right, because it is very dehumanizing, and he is Jewish, and when you talk about George Soros, you get called anti-Semitic anytime you disagree with George Soros. But when you disagree with Ben Shapiro, or when you basically try to dehumanize Ben Shapiro, like the Nazis did to the Jewish people, then you're seen as okay. And that's exactly what they're trying to do to somebody like Ben Shapiro. They're trying to make him, dehumanize is probably the best word for it.
They're completely, that's exactly what they're doing, and they don't even see it. But it is such a, there's something else they were doing there. If you notice the escalation, they've been telling us for years that words are violence and then silence is violence. Neither of these things are true. And now your mere presence, presence
is violence.
Just being there. So I thought it would be great if the Daily Wire, if there's anybody who works at the Daily Wire who comes across this video, you guys need to make this men's cologne called Presence.
I love it.
There's a writer there.
This would sell like hotcakes. I put this out, and there were people like, I would legit buy that.
Oh my God. I need to share this because yes, that would make a ton of money.
Presence. And then Deb Philman responded. She said, the man has gone, but his presence lingers. It's like,
actually, you know who could put this out, Keri? Billboard Chris could put this out too, because his mere presence is violence, right?
Yeah, it could also
his
be
presence is death.
It's such a great name for a cologne.
Shapiro's presence is violence. They're gonna think Chris's presence is like the Holocaust.
Look, Fopezi says day one, I'd buy it 100%. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Turn it into something positive and something funny, and make fun of them about it. That's what I would do.
We need to get Seamus.
Well, that's what always happens.
Commercial for Presence as Ben Shapiro.
You need to get what?
Seamus from Freedom Tunes.
Oh yeah.
To play Ben Shapiro in the commercial for Presence.
In the commercial. It's so funny. It's so silly. Okay, we do have, I just want to thank Big Rudge. Thank you for the super sticker, Big Rudge. And Tracy from Keto and Crime is here. They were talking about weight loss in the thread at the beginning. She says, I started at 360. Now I'm down to 280. Still a lot of work to do. Congratulations, lady.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that is awesome. There was a few people in the chat talking about that. That was really cool. Yeah. Congratulations to all of you. Just don't try to join the fat acceptance movement clubs. They will kick you out.
You know what's really interesting, by the way? Can I tell you guys? So last week, maybe, I angered the normalized pedophilia crowd. I have these people coming at me for days. They're insane. But I was thinking about that in terms of fat acceptance, because these are the same people who push fat acceptance. How are those two things? That makes no sense. So you have to be extra nice to pedophiles, but can never acknowledge a person's weight.
They're just using, it's just all these different groups, communities, what have you, causes, right? That utilize the social justice framework and make it work for them. They take all the same language and then they apply it to whatever their pet issue is or cause. So that's how it that's how, if you look at one of these witch hunts in the fat acceptance world, it looks just like one of the witch hunts in the social justice, like racism knitting drama that happened. It's the same thing. They're talking about race over here. They're talking about fat phobia over here, or sexism over here, but they use the same language. And yes, pedophiles are now trying to use the same language. They're trying to say, you know, all the same things. We're an oppressed group. We're a marginalized group. It stigmatizes us to call us XYZ. They're coming up with a list of things you can and can't say, you know, to have to be tolerant and inclusive.
And this is why we stopped saying, you know, love is love in reference to gay people, because love is love. They think they're like, well, love is love. It's not love when it's with the children. That's a pedophilia. It's a crime, you know, but that's the way that they try to justify it. So they are trying to use the same language.
They are.
And these people are rabid. I mean, their excuse is, if you're extra nice to pedophiles, which is very revealing that they even think that they're ascribing these sort of virtues to predators. If you're extra nice to them, they just want to get help. And if you're extra nice, they'll get help. Are you kidding me? These people are insane. And the fact that they are so rabid about this and only this, that tells me this ain't about different philosophies for protecting children.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're not about protecting children. I mean, that's the whole reason behind the Gays Against Groomers movement. And it's also, I mean, like, I put out a reel with them last week that showed, because a friend of mine in Louisiana had reached out to me, and it was these books. They were literally just trying to have these books move from the young adult section, which goes down to age 11, into the adult section, because they're basically sex manuals made for children. And I'm like, this is porn. Like, this, like, you look at these pictures, I would be banned off social media if I actually showed you these pictures. Yet they're advocating in the Library Association in Louisiana, in a very socially conservative area in Louisiana, are like fighting to keep this in that area and in that section of the library. And it's astounding, because even in those areas, it's still this fight. And those books, I think all they're doing right now is the adults are just keep checking these books out of the library so that they're not getting into the hands of kids. So they're just kind of keeping it checked out.
Well, speaking of pornography in the kids' library section, I wanted to share an update with you guys about something that happened here in Texas. This is a positive news. I should have a little banner when I'm like, good news alert. Like, we'll do something that's good.
You barely get to use it.
Yeah. So I did an interview a few months ago with a group of parents in the Grapevine-Colleyville school district here in Texas. And if you guys haven't seen it, I would highly recommend that interview. It's here on the Deprogrammed channel. I think it's called CRT and Sexually Explicit Material in the Grapevine-Colleyville school district. And in that video, they showed me all the materials they had put together, and they were pushing to change the school board. What they did is they documented, this should be a lesson to parents in any school district that has this woke ideology moving in. What they did in Grapevine-Colleyville was amazing. The parents came together, they formed a group, they started comparing notes, sharing information about what their kid was being forced to learn in school and recite in some cases in school. And they put together a packet behind the scenes. So they had a whole packet that was really well produced. We show images of it in that interview. You can see what it looks like if you want to do this in your school district. They put together just a bullet pointed, section by section, like here's the section on CRT. Here's what they're teaching our kids. Here are photographs of school lessons that they're putting out. Here's photographs of materials. Here's some of the books they're using. And then they had a section on the sexually explicit material. And some of that material was pornographic. And they had that included. And so they went out and they just started giving these packets to people in the communities. They went to churches, they went to community groups, and they were like, we're parents. It was all parent run. We want to come in and show you what's happening in the schools. And they woke a lot of people up. And then they had these elections. So I interviewed them right before the elections. They had 2 parents running against 2 of the existing school board members, and they won their election. And so now this is what's just happened. Now that those parents have control of the school board. This is from the Fort Worth Star Telegram. And this is an article from 2 days ago. Grapevine-Colleyville schools okay policy on gender critical race theory after hours of debate. So they had a meeting where I think over 200 parents showed up to speak. And it was this very contentious board meeting. And they had overwhelming support from the parents in the community to say that we're going to limit what kind of materials can be shown to our kids and used to indoctrinate our kids on critical race theory and gender identity. So I'll just read just the very beginning. After over 4 hours of comments from almost 200 speakers, the Grapevine-Colleyville School Board late Monday night voted to adopt policies that would provide more oversight of library materials, limit discussion of gender identity, and prohibit the teaching of critical race theory. In a Facebook post Tuesday, board member Shannon Braun wrote the policies would end the, quote, social, cultural, and political agendas that have plagued our district and classrooms. And I'll say one more thing about this. There was a very important part of their packet that I think if you're going to do this in your school district, this is a critical part to have. They didn't just talk about the ideology that's being pushed in the classroom with examples. They also talked about the declining standards and the declining test scores and everything, the trend, because this used to be one of the best school districts in Texas, and it's been on a decline. And they were able to show this statistically, like what's been happening since the importance was moved away from educating kids and put on all this social justice stuff. And so they're like, we just want to have our good schools back, right? So
Yeah.
And they were successful.
So, Keri, can you send me like their packet and some of this information after this? I do. So I met with on Wednesday, and I'm scheduled now. I'm doing 2 events right now with a group called No Left Turns in Education.
Oh, I've heard of them. Yeah.
So they are the group that kind of was fighting CRT in Virginia. And so I'm going to be up in Richmond in September. And I'm also speaking here in Georgia in September as well with them. And but I know that would be awesome to be able to get some of that information to how they can actually work it into the school systems too, because obviously now we're starting to look a lot with queer theory and how that's impacting schools. You know, we're talking all that. And I mean, I've also would love to take it to some legislators as well, because like, I don't know if I mentioned it on here last time. I consulted on the Louisiana version of the Don't Say Gay bill. It got pulled the last session, but it's going to be reintroduced this next session. So I did consult on that, and I would love to be able to bring in some of this information to, you know, for them to even put out to their constituents and stuff. Like, if you guys want change, this is how most change happens. Because when I consulted on that bill, a lot of the stuff that I was talking about, she said a lot of that is down to the school board level. You know, it's the counties and the school boards that's where that's where the rubber meets the road. The state legislature does, in most states, the state legislature doesn't really have that much power over what's going on in individual school districts, and for good reason. I mean, that's how decentralization works, and we should be pushing more for that. But people need to get involved in every single school district. Like I said, that library is in a very conservative area in Louisiana, so it's everywhere. It's not just in a lot of these, more leftist strongholds. It's everywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, if this is what's happening in Texas, imagine how it is everywhere else. And I think it's something that we need to just combat at every level, not just changing laws and stuff, but parents need to get involved with their kids. And I always say, if you have kids, warn them about this ideology, protect them from it the same way you would someone coming up and saying, get in the van, I have candy. Because that is the pressure that these kids are facing when it comes to this stuff.
Isn't that interesting? Because isn't it now that they're like literally telling kids to get in the, like, kids, think about this. since we moved into the digital age, people like Eli Ehrlich have become that person in the van instead of giving candy, they're giving HRT. Yeah.
I know it. I was thinking this also, not just with this, but with when I angered the maps last week. I'm like, it just blows my mind the things that are even up for discussion today. Normalizing pedophilia, giving hormones to children, double mastectomies for 12-year-olds. What planet are we living? Do you guys ever just stop and feel like, what planet are we living on?
Yeah, it's a crazy time.
And honestly, I start to think about it. It's first world problems too, when you really think about it, because when you go to other countries that don't have all this time to fight about this type of stuff, like cultural issues, you don't have these issues, because they're so worried about finding food. Like in third world countries, like when Matt Walsh went to Africa and that African tribe, it's like, we're worried about finding food. What are you talking about? This gender theory, it's as you get more affluent, it brings more problems, more money, more problems.
Well, people go looking for problems.
I think there have been some encouraging steps, though. Like in Florida, there was a school board, I believe it was, that was saying how they were combating DeSantis from within and trying to usurp the parental rights bill. Every single one of them except one was voted out the other day. So that's good. I like I said, I think it's something that needs to be fought from every angle, because I do question how much laws, as great as that would be, would really solve the problem. So I think it has to be cultural and individual as well.
Well, here's my biggest thing, and this is why I push so hard for. I'm a big advocate and push very hard for school choice. Funding students instead of institutions, because honestly, at the end of the day, if you want to send your kids to a woke school that's teaching all this stuff, you should be allowed to. But if you also want to send your kids to a religious institution that's teaching God and all this other stuff, you should also be allowed to with your taxpayer dollars. Like, you should have this choice. If parents had a choice, the market would absolutely decide, and I think it would decide the right way. You're not trapping kids in these public schools.
They had here, when I was in high school, they had, I think it was like the only one in existence. They had like the she'll be back. She sometimes like disappears for a sec. But they had here like the LGBTQ high school. And I cannot think of a fate worse than having to go to the LGBTQ high school. Like, even back when I was in school, I was like, yeah, I know the people who go there. Losers.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you should be able to choose it.
Did you say there was an LGBT high school?
Yeah, the Harvey Milk School.
Oh, right. I knew the Harvey Milk School. That's right.
And I remember that was like when I was in high school, and there were no gay people in existence my age back then. And I was like, I would rather just like die alone than like go anywhere near the Harvey Milk School.
Well, now it's just like going to any queer function. It's anything that says queer, you're just like, maybe I'm not going to go there. I mean, if they want to have their own high school, then go ahead. But a high school full, it's basically
on the screen from Justin.
Can you imagine the mean girls?
Oh my God!
LGBT high school?
Can you imagine? Oh my God!
Oh, I love Justin. If you guys don't know Justin is Austin Peterson's brother, and he is just a phenomenal person.
Hi, Justin. I recognize his name. Hey, I want to show you guys something else about this topic. So first of all, let me put this up on the screen. That packet I mentioned, I think it's probably still available on their website, but I will find it for you, Sarah. It's called, if you want to go to their website, I mean, even their website's amazing. They have a section on CRT. They have a section on the pornography in the schools. It's gcisdparents.com. And I just put that up on the screen so you can see it. But look at this. This is an op-ed written in the Dallas Express by one of the parents there, Shannon Braun. And so she says, this is so badass. Just listen. She goes, "We are in the midst of a transformation at Grapevine-Colleyville ISD. In the last several years, parents and taxpayers have begun to take back our local schools by sending champions for change like myself to serve on the school board, and we have hit the ground running. The old guard, which has lost its monopoly of control on our tax dollars and children, has been reduced to the politics of personal destruction against the new board members and outright lies about our achievements and intentions. I'm here to set the record straight on our proud record of accomplishments thus far. Our overall objective from the start has always been simple: return to a primary focus on education, not indoctrination, put parents back in charge of their schools, and restore fiscal sanity to the district. Radical, I know, or at least to some. And then she goes on to detail all the fights that they've won along the way, all these battles that they've won. And this came out a couple days before the vote, actually. So she was already like, we are not done. I love this. I love this piece. I love to see these parents victorious. So go check them out. If you're dealing with this, whatever state you're in, whatever school district, go check out gcisdparents.com and get some ideas. So,
and I love so much to see this happening. But like I said, also, if anyone watching this, your parents who have kids, like, talk to them about this stuff before the schools get involved, because once they get their hooks in, it's going to be too late.
Yeah.
Sara, what did you send me?
So that's a reel I did the other day for Outspoken. It's about Dr. Fauci. It's basically Dr. Fauci lying straight up on Fox News.
Let me see. Let me pull this up. He's stepping down, you guys. After 50 years of public service, that's what they call it.
Yeah. But listen to this. He's trying to backtrack that he told Brett Baer that the record will show that he never, ever recommended shutting the country down completely. What? And so I brought receipts. In this.
Okay, hold on. Let me get this.
It's good. It's
very good.
Let me get the
and so it's with Outspoken, like we talk. So if anybody else knows out there too, a lot of my reels are on Outspoken now because I am a brand ambassador for them. So they're doing a lot of good stuff. They got a few of us that are out here.
Get Outspoken USA.
Yep. And I think it's the same on Instagram as well. So if you go on Instagram, they have all your up and coming influencers and stuff like that are working with them. All the LGBT influencers. There's a lot of cross between them and Gays Against Groomers as well. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, Neil, that we didn't recommend shutting everything down.
Okay, let's check the record. Oh, what's this? Or this? Or my personal favorite.
I recommended to the president that we shut the country down. And that was a very difficult decision.
So did you recommend that we shut the country down, Dr. Fauci?
I've said that so many times.
Yep. You're a liar.
It will show, Neil, that we didn't recommend shutting everything down.
Okay, it's so good.
They're such outright liars. They're like they are psychopaths. I mean, psychopaths do this.
My friend Hannah Cox, when I posted that, she goes, did nobody explain the internet to him? The internet is forever. Like, it was not hard to find that clip. It was very easy.
They don't care because they know that about half the population will just believe whatever they say or pretend to.
There you go. Mm-hmm. They know it doesn't matter to a certain portion, and they just hope that portion is large enough to keep them in power. These freaking narcissists and psychopaths. It's like they can just lie right out in the open, and it doesn't matter to some people. Like,
somebody put a great compilation on Twitter that's just like a mashup of all the times that all of these leaders said you have to get the injection so you won't get COVID, which now they deny also.
Oh yeah,
the CEO of Pfizer just got it.
There's video footage of Rachel Maddow. I mean, we could go pull that up. It's video footage of her saying, if you take the vaccine, lots of them saying, if you take the vaccine.
Biden, the head of the CDC.
Oh,
yeah.
All of them. That we were, it's almost like we were lied to.
Yeah. complete lies. And they lie, and every step of the way they would just change and contradict what they had previously been saying. And then it didn't seem to matter to the people who were in the COVIDian cult, like it didn't seem to matter how big the lies got or how many times they contradicted themselves. They just kept going along. I'll tell you though, the past few years have been a great learning experience for me about humanity and how people, that book that Jordan Peterson recommends. We read it for book club. It's what is it? I've got it behind me. It's the one about, it's got Good Men in the title, and it's about this particular group of reserve police officers during the Holocaust who became executioners of Jewish people. And it's just following like these average men and seeing how they were used to do this and how it changes them, and kind of helps you understand like how if you have an evil psychopath or psychopathic ideology in charge, you can get large groups of people to go along with you. And anyway, long story short, the COVID years taught me that you can get lots of people to go along with whatever you're saying, even if it's lies, even if you contradict yourself. Lots of people will just, I don't know, just fall in line. Like,
well, and even on the, the gender debate and stuff like that, it was Colin Wright had a tweet the other day that was like last week that was perfect. It said, I don't care what guidelines you're following. If you are performing surgeries on these kids, then you are harmful. And it does, because you're following guidelines, or just following these guidelines does not give you a moral standing. And you really think about it, it's like the Nuremberg trials. Like, are we going to have like Nuremberg style trials for some of these doctors who were just following guidelines?
Yeah. Just following orders, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening. Ordinary men. That's what the book is called. Can we stop bringing the Holocaust in and everything? No. If it applies, I'm going to talk about it, sir. I mean, it doesn't apply to everything. How many episodes do we talk about it? Not very many, but it's a historical example that everyone's familiar with, and we didn't live through it. My point is, we've now lived through something that's different, but similar in some ways, similar in illustrating to us how those kinds of things happened in history. I can understand these atrocities in history better now because of the past couple years and the way people, the way that it's almost like a study in psychology, group psychology.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing that I just kind of want to mention too, like, this is the thing that people realize, you start to realize this too about people, is most people, I mean, the elite are trying to get us divided, but most people do have good intentions. But we do, again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Like, most people think they're doing the right thing, and they're not. It's evil that they're following.
Yeah.
You're a nicer person than I am. Like, I don't think a lot of them have good intentions. I don't care what their intentions are. That's just me. But like, I can understand the point that he's making, that other people use it a lot. But if there were ever a time in our lives to make that comparison, it is everything we've lived through in the last 2 years. I mean, the dehumanization we saw, that there were literally people on TV saying hospitals should refuse service if someone doesn't get the injection, let them die. And people, Jimmy Kimmel, laughing about it. You had leaders saying this, the dehumanization, the segregation. I mean, who thought that we would have ever seen segregation implemented in this day and age? So if there were ever a time, it's now. And especially when you consider that it was all predicated on lie after lie after lie after lie. Every single thing that we were told about this virus was a lie. The masks, the arbitrary 6-foot distancing, the injections, its origin, who's vulnerable to it, every single thing was a lie.
And they flip-flop.
And again, we're
constantly.
canceled.
Yeah. I think, are we at a point now where we can actually say some of these things, these truths?
I think so, because they've come out as now the left is saying that those are true. So I don't know. I think we can. And now I want to say, like, I don't think the politicians and the leaders of the figures have good intentions, but
No.
the vast majority of the population
Yes.
that is following this has good intentions, and they are just believing the propaganda that's being put out there about this stuff.
Yes.
You guys are nicer people than I am. I'm like, no.
I do believe a lot of them believe it. I mean, I had this interaction the past couple days. Here, let me show you guys. This is actually kind of funny. You know, sometimes when like a random tweet goes viral and you're like, what? Why did that happen? There was a reply that I put up to Elijah Schaefer about it was about the wage gap and feminism, and the reply was an old meme, but the meme, like I think it had like 1 million impressions, the tweet, and it got retweeted and picked up by all these people, and I had a lot of I guess young feminists very angry with me for days. They're still angry, actually. Here, let me show you this.
It was too honest. It hit too close to home.
Yeah, that's what a good meme is. I was like, a good meme is like guns, trucks, or wine. It retains a lot of its value over time. So you can it's still a powerful meme. Here we go. Let's see if you can see this. So it's just a meme that says feminism explained. You guys have probably seen this. It's old. There's a worker on the ground who's like working, looks like he's about to go into a manhole, and there's 2 blonde women walking by him, looking down at him, and they say, "Stop oppressing us," and he says, "Sorry." It's a funny meme, and it's a good meme in a lot of ways. Visually it's good because he's beneath them, right? But the people went crazy over this, and I had all kinds of very young people replying, and it was weird because if you looked at their profiles, a lot of them, it was like this overlap between these like young feminists, a lot of pronouns in their bios. A lot of them were super into anime or K-pop, or they were outright furries. And a lot of them had OnlyFans accounts and were like posted a lot of porn on their profiles. It was like a weird, this basically, I said this meme was like a key to this weird part of Twitter I'd never been to. But long story short, one of the, it is weird. You're like, what part of Twitter is this?
I had that happen with the furries recently.
The furries. It's like, what? But so one of them said to me, she was like, this young feminist, this is typical of a lot of the retweets and responses. She said, I'm so glad that I left my edgy, cringy, anti-feminist beliefs when I was, that I was in when I was 16. This girl's like 21 or something, right? And I said to her, that's funny because I'm so glad that I left my cringy, edgy feminist beliefs that I got into when I was 16. And I spent, after 20 years in it, that's when I left it. So, a little bit older than you. And what she couldn't understand was this. I think she's sincere. She even said in her tweet thread, I'm on the right side of history. You're not. They believe that. She believes she's on the right side of history. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Like,
I think you're absolutely right.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I need to cut you off. I was just saying, I think that there are some people who believe it and have good intentions. I say it pains me to even have those words come out of my mouth. But what I honestly think it is for the majority of them is they want to sit at the correct lunch table. That's really all it is. Social pressure, in-group, out-group mentality. They want to sit at the good people table. Like, I just think of these people who I was friends with before I was doing this, the few who had no problem knowing my views and my opinions when we talked about them together for a couple of years, but then the moment other people knew mine, then they had a problem with it because of the social pressure, because then other people would say, oh, how could you know him? And I think that's what it is for a lot of people. So it's like, do they know that they're being lied to? They just don't care what's true, I don't think. It's sort of like if someone, if someone is 30 and they tell you they're 28, you're like, okay, whatever. Or if someone says, this is my natural hair color, they're like, okay, sure. It's like they don't really care. It's insignificant to them what's true. The only thing that matters to these people is their horrible friends considering them one of the good people, and they don't want to be one of the bad people. I really think that's all it is to them, and they're willing to sacrifice everything, children, the bodies and souls of children, to be one of the good people. That's really what I think it is for a lot of them.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know.
Isn't it interesting though? Because I know in real life, not online, I have progressive friends who are a little bit more on the left, and it's like we're friends on like Instagram and stuff, but we don't watch each other's stuff because we know that we aren't going to agree, and it's just going to make us like angry with the person, and really, but for the most part, it's not me who's leaving friends. It's people that are leaving me and not wanting to associate with me. So people on the right tend to be more like, I don't care who you vote for and stuff like that. As long as you're a good person, we can get along great. Where people on the left, typically they're the ones that are like, if you don't agree with everything I say, we're no longer friends. There's not everybody, but it's usually not me that's leaving friends. It's them leaving us.
For the most part, that's the direction it goes. Yeah, they're very closed off.
I don't want to be the kind of person who's like, oh, I won't be friends with leftists, or I won't date leftists, but I'm sick of it. I don't want to at this point, because I know what's going to happen. Even if they don't personally have a problem with it, all it will take is one bitch friend of theirs saying, how could you know him? And done, because these people cannot handle an ounce of social pressure.
Well, and that's what's interesting. Well, dating's completely different than just being friends. I don't think I could date a progressive like at all. Now, my ex-wife was more on the liberal side of things, even though she loved Ron Paul, but she also loved Bernie because he was cute too. So like she just like, they were like cute old men. So that's like the way she looked at politicians, but she was more on the liberal side of things, but she was more socially liberal. And probably, but Ron Paul's economic stuff made sense to her. So that's how we were able to get along pretty well. But she was also not involved in politics at all. So if somebody's more just like casually involved and they're more, on the, moderate liberal side, maybe I could date them. But other than that, but now she would be considered alt-right because she's, because it's moved so far left.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think everything now is basically just wrong thinker or not wrong thinker. And there are different categories within that, but I think that's what it comes down to. I don't know one single non-wrong thinker or leftist who would be friends with someone like me or you guys and would flat out state, this is my friend. We don't have to agree. I don't care what you think. Do you guys know one person like that?
I do.
Not any sort of wrong thinker.
Okay.
I mean?
Well, yeah, there's sort of like, I've got a couple of progressive friends like that, but they're the real progressives. Like they're like Jimmy Dore kind of progressive.
He's a wrong thinker.
And he gets called a wrong thinker. Yeah, he gets called a right winger and everything. So they're that kind of progressive. But they would say that it's when you're in the social justice, specifically that part of the left, even the ones who are still open-minded enough to stay friends with you, if someone ever came for them for being friends with you, they'd probably fold, because unless they left the cult, because it would be a moment for them of like, you're either out.
They will put you out of the cult. They will send you out if you don't do what they say. So you're right. It's hard.
Can I ask you a question? Because you were talking about dating and stuff with different belief systems. I think probably the older I get, that having a difference in like fundamental beliefs, the different belief system, is probably one of the hardest things to deal with in a romantic relationship. Mm-hmm. And I know there are people in our Deprogrammed audience, there might be some in chat today too, who've dealt with that, who like one person got red pilled during the COVID years and another person didn't. And so they're completely different way of looking at the world. And it's like I think that's the hardest struggle to have, probably harder than almost anything else, because do you guys agree or?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because the divide, it's become more divisive. So if one person did get red pilled at that time and another person's still holding on to those beliefs, I could see how difficult that would be. Because even with me, I would try to talk politics with my ex, and she just didn't even want to talk politics. And I'm into politics. I was very much into, like, I wanted to learn more about politics. I wanted to talk about, theories and all this other stuff. And she was just not. That was something that we didn't have in common, but that was okay at the time. Now, I mean, for us now, being more public figures in this arena, I don't think it would even be possible.
Yeah. Mike, do you have something to say?
Not a difference. It's not a difference in politics. It's a difference in principle. Because if you examine the things that ultimately really matter, I think, to all of us, it's not, at the end of the day, this policy, this idea. It's really about these sort of more fundamental things of free speech and diversity of thought, and it sounds lame, but like tolerance of different beliefs and stuff, and they have none of that. Or simply just having the fortitude to think for yourself, having a mind of your own, just these very simple things that would make it possible to have these relationships. But I think these are all of the things that the modern leftist is just totally devoid of. So it wouldn't be possible.
It's kind of like you have two different, if you have a completely different belief system, that means the way in which you look at and interpret the world is different from that of your partner. So you have two different frames of reality. It's like that quote about like watching two different movies. You're watching two different movies. So everything's going to be fraught and a lot harder, even if you love each other, to reconcile any disagreements, because it's not just a difference of opinion on one political policy or one party or anything. It's a difference of reference on like what is truth and how do you look at the world.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, because what we have to remember is we view the world through such a high level lens when it comes to social media. So when you're thinking modern progressives, you're thinking of all the radicals that we see online, and that's probably only 8% of actual progressives. I mean, think about that. And so when you're thinking about the average person who really doesn't follow politics too much, but they think, they get sucked into that mind warp that the left likes to do, or even people on the right get sucked into that. And it's like so you're right. You live in like a different universe, but a lot of people just aren't that focused on the constant divisions that we're focused on a daily basis. At the same time, it is interesting. You mentioned that we live in different worlds, because I've started to realize lately, like when I go and I look at some of like leftist Twitter and I see like the reality that they live in, it's so different, because they see stuff so differently than us. And it's not just because anything that they're even aware of. It's the algorithms of these platforms. They give you stuff that you're gonna to make you engage more. So you're seeing only the worst of the worst leftists because you're on the right. So that's who you're most likely to engage with in these heated debates. Whereas the average progressive is seeing the worst of the right on their feed, because that's who they're most likely to engage with. And then there's this whole vast group in the middle. And so you get that. But that's how like the internet and these algorithms have completely just changed reality in a lot of ways for so many people, including us.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
See,
it was Kristen Beck when she was on with Joe Rogan a few months ago. So that she has like 3 Twitter accounts, one to view leftist Twitter, one to view conservative Twitter, and then just her personal Twitter, because so you can kind of get like this outside of your echo chamber view of how other people see the world.
Yeah.
Through the lens of algorithms.
It's funny. I try and follow some social justice people so that I can stay aware of like not being an echo chamber. But I wonder if some of the ones I'm following are like the worst of the worst.
Also, those just for entertainment. God, I feel like I don't want to forget to say to like people who agree with us, do not become like these people, because I had somebody write to me on Twitter last week. I'm unfollowing you if you don't unfollow this leftist. Why do you follow them? And I'm like, oh, no. Who do you think you're talking to, bitch? I'm like, I don't know your names. I walked away from the left for a reason. I don't play by your rules. So goodbye. But
and first of all, this is not an airport. You don't have to announce your departure.
Oh, they always announce their departure. But
and you also know, like, I follow leftists so that I can watch some of their takes, so I know,
I want to know what they're
so
saying.
you can keep tabs on people. And I do. So I've been on some of these trans leftist podcasts and stuff like that, and we had a decent conversation when I was on there. It's very respectable, and so I actually respect this person, even though we vastly disagree on stuff and we do argue on Twitter, but I still follow them because you know what? It's interesting, and you got to stay out of your own echo chambers. You have to expand your horizons, and sometimes talking to them is the best way to do that. Even though you don't agree, you actually get an idea of how they think.
Yeah. I met a guy just recently online who's like that. If you ever meet, if you're in because Twitter's an awful place. It can also be a great place. And in the middle of the pile-on that was happening to me, I met this guy he's progressive. He's got his pronouns in his bio. He's gay. He's got he, him. It's pretty obvious he's he, him. I'm like, oh, why is that there? But whatever. But he was open-minded. He started messaging me and we were going back and forth. And I was like, if you find a social justice person who's open-minded enough to be respectful and civil and talk to you, like, they're rare. So keep those people around because they're willing to have a dialogue and they're open-minded enough to converse with you. So who knows what trajectory they're on? Like, I think staying friends with those people is important.
There's a lot of people that block me on Twitter. And it's so funny because when I see all these like accounts like starting to get a lot of like right-wing attention, like the trans activists like starting to get a lot of attention like for these crazy things that they're saying, and I go and I can't see the tweet that I click. I'm like, oh, I've been blocked. I'm like, these people have blocked me years ago, so I'm just like, welcome to the party, everybody.
They preemptively block a lot.
They cannot handle the slightest dose of their own medicine. They're so used to being able to walk all over people that when they actually encounter someone who's having none of their shit, they fold like a card table. I disagree slightly though with what you were saying about like how 90% of them aren't like that. I feel like that's true, but I feel like the other 90% are their enablers. It's the problem that we're living through, I think, more than anything, is compliance culture and coward culture. It's without the compliance and the agreement of all of these people, the nut jobs would have nothing. They would have no power. That's why every corporation goes along with it. That's why every politician goes along with it, because they think it's popular because so many people adopt these things. Why would that guy have he, him in his bio? It's like they put it like it's lamb's blood on the door.
He's probably never thought about it before. Probably never thought about it before. You know, one of the things he said to me in the messages was he was trying to explain his point of view about something. And he said, my pronouns are he, him, and I won't tolerate anyone misgendering me. And I replied and said, well, you look like a he, him. Do people ever call you she, her? And he was like, no, I said, are you trans? And he was like, no, I'm cisgendered male. I was like, so why do you need to put that in there? Nobody ever misgenders you. And I don't think he'd ever thought about it that way. It's like, sometimes they just haven't thought about it because they're just automatically doing what their tribe does.
I just think once they do think about it, it won't matter. I think
sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. Look at Dom. He says, I had to delete 2 people I knew off of everything because of how radical they were. Extreme social justice warriors, black supremacy, etc. I checked on them and both of them have red pilled. No one is completely lost.
No, that's absolutely true. It goes to the old adage. Remember what they used to say? And I don't, is like, if you're not a liberal at 19, then you don't have a heart. But if you're not a conservative by 35, you don't have a brain. Like, that is absolutely true. Like, a lot of that is the progression that has traditionally happened. I mean, I like to say that I had a brain at 19 because I was conservative, but
Oh, I had none. My brain was in my pants.
Well, Mikey did call me big brain, so I mean,
You are. Clearly, you knew what was up for any of us. Wait, what I want to say, though, I think it's very deliberate, the reason that these people put pronouns, and more importantly, the reason that they ask for pronouns. It's to identify any wrong thinkers. It's to identify any insubordinates. If you won't go along, oh yeah, he, him. If you won't say your pronouns, if you won't put that in your bio, if you won't go along with it, they can identify you as someone who is non-compliant on the entire agenda.
And that's true for the vast majority.
But they haven't thought it through. A lot of them haven't. Yeah. They don't know why. If you ask them why they put the pronouns in their bio, they would tell you it's to show solidarity with trans people and to normalize telling because your pronouns.
What person, Sarah, like, I look at you and of course, like, I would call you she. Like, did you transition for people to come up and ask you
exactly.
who you are?
No. And that's why I hate when people ask pronouns, because it is. I've transitioned for a reason. Like, it should be obvious. Now, I will say, I know some more left-leaning libertarians who have pronouns in their bios and stuff like that. And it is. They want to say that it's to show solidarity. One of my more progressive friends, it's one of these other friends where I know this person personally because we know each other in real life and we're cool. She had posted on Instagram one day that on a story that said asking somebody's pronouns is it helps trans people this way. And I just reached out to her. I said, well, transsexuals, actually, it gives us dysphoria because then it means you've clocked us and you're just doing this just for us. So it just reminds us that we're trans. And so, and I said, ContraPoints got in trouble for that a couple of years ago for saying this exact thing. And she replied back with, oh, she goes, do you think if we normalized it for everybody to do that though, then it would be a difference? And I just simply replied, I don't think it's feasible to change language and change the way that society interacts for literally less than 1% of the population. It just doesn't make any sense in that regard. And she took it. She goes, well, this is definitely a perspective I hadn't heard, so thank you, like type thing. And so you're right. I think that they don't understand how harmful that could be to somebody like me. So it's not standing up for somebody like me. But that's the thing is, I know even libertarians that are more left-leaning are like that. And I think that they feel like it is showing solidarity in some way or another. And it's mostly for solidarity for non-binary people. I have a non-binary friend that's in the Libertarian Party here in Atlanta, and he's cool. He's respectful, or they are cool. They're respectful. Cause I do try to use their pronouns because I do respect this person, but this person also respects me. And we have very similar political beliefs when it comes to, the government and stuff like that. So it's like, you try not, like, if it's a leftist and it's a communist, then yeah, you don't believe in free speech anyway. So I'm gonna hit you where it hurts, but I will always try to use their pronouns and they are not very, and see, it's difficult for me. And so it's, even when I'm around them, it's like, okay, I'll try, but I hardly ever get it right. But I never get yelled at for it, so I'm okay with it.
Again, you're nicer people than I am. I'm like, that shit. Like, I will not. I don't believe in it, and I will, like, if I were to meet one of the non-binaries, and I use these very aptly, that I respected, I think my best compromise, just to not argue, would be I would just not use pronouns at all. But I don't believe in it. I don't believe you can be a they, them. I will never call anyone that.
Yeah,
I don't like the term.
They cosplay as being trans. They've rebranded themselves trans because if a person is a transsexual, I believe that like to me, I would just call you she. Like, anyway, it doesn't matter. So they try to conflate those two things. Because for me, I respect if someone is transitioned. I respect their gender that they live as, but that doesn't mean I'm going to respect anything that somebody makes up that is not real.
Yeah, and that's what queer theory has kind of done that. And if you guys read my article that was in Human Events a couple weeks ago, I kind of talked about that a little bit too. It's because when the American Psychological Association, the APA, when they changed it from transsexual to transgender, and then they basically made it so they took the need for dysphoria out of being trans. That is when they started to actually co-opt this term, and that is what's kind of caused the queer theorists to be able to operate and make it seem like everybody's trans. Even if you don't even transition, if you just have purple hair, then you're trans to them. So that's what has really caused a lot of this spiraling.
Yeah. Billboard Chris put up a tweet the other day. I mean, it might have been yesterday. And it was about the Boston Children's Hospital and a lot of their quote unquote gender affirming care for kids. And it was a video with one of their doctors talking about how, this standard thing they try to say with like sex and gender. And it said gender, but your gender is on the inside. And I thought his quote on Twitter was just perfect. He was like, where exactly on the inside is it? Like, you're a doctor. You should be able to point to where do we find the gender? Like, it's not like a heart or a stomach or lungs or brain or like show me inside of you where the gender is like that. It's a lot of it is just like you're saying, they've reduced it to this sort of you don't even have to say that you feel uncomfortable in your body anymore. Like you said, they got rid of gender dysphoria, or they've changed the definition of gender dysphoria. You don't have to say that. You just have to say deep inside, I feel like this. How is that objective? How is that scientific at all for doctors to be saying that? Like, it's just inside of you,
That whole Boston Children's Hospital stuff is kind of crazy too, because I actually did a video on it last week. I don't understand why these videos are coming from a children's hospital. Like I even admit, like, some of the videos that they're putting out, like they make sense, and it would be good information for adults. So why is it coming from a children's hospital is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
But, I actually have a story. Oh, I have a story to tell you too. This is kind of interesting. So I actually, my surgeon's office where I had my surgery in Austin, they reached out to me because they wanted to use, because my recovery has been so good, they wanted to use my pictures for the website. And I thought about it for a little bit, and I wrote back and I said, no, not the before, but the afters, like the through periods of recovery, like so that they could show people, like, type thing. And I said, I have to decline consent to this because though my individual experience has been nothing but wonderful with this hospital, I said, I've also recently found out that you guys have done, top surgeries on teens. And I said, I don't support any elective, life-altering elective surgeries for minors. I don't support that. So so I said, I cannot have you guys use my pictures as promotion to make money off of, basically. And they just said, okay, thanks.
I'm so glad they heard that from someone, though.
Yeah,
like, I'm so glad they heard that from you specifically, like someone who was a patient there who's saying, no, you will not use my photos to promote this to children. So
yeah, I mean, they did good work for me, and I've had great results, and I'm very happy with my care at the hospital, but I don't support some of their other practices that they do at this hospital. It's just, I'm not going to support that. I'm not going to allow you to use my images, personal images, very personal images, to make money off of, even though they're anonymous.
That would be so horrible anyway. Who the hell wants someone to see like photos? Once I get my whole face done, I'm gonna do everything.
Stop it! You're not gonna get your face done. Stop it. Okay,
I just have to be on the back of my head.
You guys, I gotta put up a couple of these. I want to thank a couple of people for super chats. This is not a super chat. I just want to put it up. Night Train says, whatever your pronouns, don't forget to like this video. Thank you, Night Train. Thank you very much. And then we did have a super chat from Keto and Crime. Hi, Tracy. $20 super chat. Thank you very much, lady. She says, I sometimes wonder where the tipping point was. I mean, LGBT We went from Stonewall to finally being equal citizens, but now many seem to want to almost forcibly oppress others while screaming, I'm oppressed.
I mean, I think the clear moment in time seems to be around after gay marriage happened, which I think is very unfortunate. I think there are now people who want to blame everything that's happening now on, if we hadn't legalized gay marriage, and that's a little bit hard to argue with, because clearly not only has the slippery sloped, it is going down the slippery slope at maximum velocity. But I feel like it didn't have to be that way. There are many reasons that happened. Partly this multi-billion-dollar oppression industry that had to keep themselves in business and had to invent a whole lot of shit. All of the people who capitalized on that to bring in this sort of great reset. And then also, we can't neglect the fact of people on the right abandoning every institution in this country over the last number of decades.
Yeah.
So that's a factor in it as well.
It's all.
No, you're absolutely right.
It's all the movements, though. It's the feminist movement. It's the civil rights movement. All of them have been co-opted, and like you said, they have to keep justifying their existence. Yep. Their money they're raising, their salaries, they're heavily invested. It's like your article, Sarah. It's the sunken cost fallacy. So they have they have to keep finding problems, and it's going to get the so-called problems they find are going to get crazier and crazier because they can't just stop.
That's what critical theory does. So all critical theory. So feminism is a critical theory. CRT is the critical theory that was derived from the civil rights movement, and now queer theory is the critical theory that's derived from feminism, but it's also derived. So it was built in feminism, but it's derived from the LGBT rights movement as well. But they're all based in postmodern neo-Marxism. So that's where it goes into, like what you said, the Great Reset, and it is really interesting because this did happen right after gay marriage was legalized. So the queer theory fight's been going on since it was started in the early 90s. I've seen it for a little while, but it was 2015 gay marriage was legalized, and 2016 was the first bathroom bill in North Carolina. So that's really, it caused this stir. And if you remember, that was started because Charlotte, North Carolina had like a self-ID bathroom bill that said you had to allow anybody who self-ID as the other gender into that bathroom. And that's what caused the state of North Carolina to flip and take the bait and completely ban trans people from going in to, like, even if you transition, that you still had to, like, I would still have to use the male's bathroom or whatnot, even though I'm fully transitioned. And so that is completely, like, it caused this uproar, and it caused their activism to now live on. And that's why we're fighting this fight, because after gay marriage, what else was there to fight for? And so now you have to fight for trans rights, even though there was never any issues in trans rights until you created an issue.
Yeah, whoever thought, trans people have been going to the bathroom for all of time. Who the hell ever gave that any consideration?
Yeah.
And now that turns into, grown men wanting to go into locker rooms. And it's because, and it all comes back to not fighting for these so-called little things, whether it comes to, I think the they-thems are a big part of that when it comes to allowing them to control language, to change definitions of words. It's these supposed little things that we need to be more hardline on than anything, because that's what brought us here. Once we agreed to the fact that trans has no meaning, now you have grown men going into little girls' locker rooms. Why wouldn't they? They're trans.
And this is why I've been kicked out.
Stuff more than anyone ends up harming actual transsexual people.
This is why I've been kicked out of 3 Reddit groups. 3 years ago, I got kicked out of 3 Reddit groups. So this is
I got banned.
I was on the front. Well, that's why I was kicked out of these groups, because one of them was because I said transgenders are real, and when the detransition rate skyrockets, it's going to hurt actual trans people. And here we are 3 years later, and that's exactly what we see. Because think about this. I use the ladies' restroom. I use the women's locker room at the gym, and I am very respectful when I go into these places that I've been afforded access to. But because there are these bad eggs who are fully presenting males that go into these spaces and making people uncomfortable, now people want to, use government, which I think it should be an individual, like, organizations, how they want it. Like, they're every individual organization should be able to create their own rules. But now you have, like, people on the far right wanting to activate government to, put me into dangerous situations, or where I can't leave my house because I don't know where I'm supposed to go to the bathroom. And if I do go into the men's room, I could be putting myself into danger.
It's because they pushed to have this in the government to come in and say, we are going to force you to accept opposite sex people in restrooms. They tried to use the government to do that. So now the right, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Now the right is saying, okay, well, then we're going to use the government to say no effing way, and you can't go into the opposite sex bathroom. And if they had just not pushed that issue, nobody cared, because as long as you passed, nobody was noticing. If you didn't pass, then of course it's like, what's this man doing in the restroom? But it wasn't. They made it this ridiculous, and they've used kids to do it here in Texas. This makes me angry, because they've used little kids to go and be spokespeople for this, and put them up and be like, look at my trans daughter, why won't you let it? And they put these like 7-year-olds up there crying at the podium, talking about like, why can't I go in the girls' room? And it's like, well, you could have if your activist parents. Because you look like a little girl who would have known, but your activist parents tried to force the law into this and to force people to accept this. And if you hadn't tried to use the government as a weapon, like it just I don't know.
You guys remember when Blair White got kicked out of the men's room in California? Did you guys see that video?
No.
Yeah. Well,
she did a full video where she's like, what would happen if I go into the men's room? And so she did. And they kicked her out of the restaurant.
Because it would be ridiculous for her.
Of course, because she doesn't look like. Yeah,
no, that's some people who are like very hard line about like not tolerating trans people. Like it would require more effort and more thought to call someone like you or Blair to call you guys he. Like that would just be ridiculous. And
this is what's interesting.
Try to overcomplicate that, like about you can't really change it. Like a bunch of things they say about like why someone is trans. I'm like, it honestly doesn't matter to me. It's the same thing if someone would say to me, why are you gay? Like, was I born that way? Or is it just because my mom wore one too many sequins when I was a kid? Who cares?
Well, that's what's really interesting too, because we could talk about, you're right. You could talk about the gender dysphoria stuff and what's going on there. But really at the end of the day, it's like Dave Chappelle's friend Daphne had said, just believe that I'm having a human experience, right? And we kind of respect that. And what's really interesting too is, and this is what I have found, is like when I go places, like women almost pull me into their spaces. Like, because I'm respectful of that space, they're like, yes, no, it would be crazy for you not to be in here, type thing. It's like, why would you go there? Whereas if you're not, and you have like you go into like the wee spa with your male organs out, of course people are going to be uncomfortable.
Of course,
like, and of course they're going to want to kick you out. Like,
yes, like why would you? It's like the Jessica Yanovs of the world. What's his real name? I forget, but
Gary?
that crazy guy. That crazy guy. Okay, we
Jonathan.
are Jonathan. Yanov. Oh.
Yeah, okay, no, you mean Jessica Simpson.
Oh, he changed his name again. Night Train. Thank you, Night Train. Gave a $5 super chat. Says, I do my best for pronouns for people I respect, but also I pity. I know Chris Chan is a divisive figure, but I have pity for her. Internet destroyed her. I don't know who that is. I've heard that name before.
So Chris Chan is the autistic. It used to be on the internet. Is autistic. Is in prison now. I think it's in the women's prison though. Because it's a male and it's in like UK or something. But the big thing is he raped his mom.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Rose of Dawn Rose of Dawn did a lot of videos on Chris Chan, and the whole thing was when he was going to prison, he was talking about it online, and that's how they like caught him. I think his mom had some severe disabilities or something too, and so it was like when he went to prison, there was this big fight that he should go in the women's prison, and it's like no. And this is where I draw a line, especially on the prison issue. Is like if you use your male organ to rape somebody, you deserve everything you get in the men's prison. You're going to the men's prison. Like, I don't care. I think the most detestable thing you can do is that. And so, like, but they were more worried about you misgendering Chris than actually what he had done.
Oh, that's so.
But that's the way it always happens. They're more worried about these criminals, like what they you misgendering them, misgendering them than actually than what they've actually committed crimes. And it's like, no, we should probably distance ourselves from these people and not worry about what their pronouns are.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to fall down this rabbit hole. I'm gonna watch all the documentaries.
So I just Googled him. It's gross, guys. I'm just saying it's really gross. Okay. So excuse me. Moving on. One more super chat from Tatsu Sama. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but thank you for the I don't even know what that money is. 5 monies. Says, good conversation. Love me some base representation. Thank you. And then Pirate Tomsky, our mod, thank you for modding. I saw the porn bot show up. Pirate Tomsky says, a friend of mine who has always considered himself a socialist has started to rethink his position because of lockdowns in the UK and the overreach by the government. Yes, I know a ton of people who've been red pilled during these COVID years. That's happening. Yeah. People are waking up. So,
well, you had Christina on last couple weeks ago. That was like in the last year.
Yeah, in the last year, Christina Buttons. Yeah. Woke up, smash the like button, guys. Oh, thanks, Pirate. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, I can't get that last story out of my head.
Watch all like the true crime shit.
Chris Chan, gross. Okay, you guys, it's been an hour and a half. Do you want to talk about anything else, or we didn't even talk about Biden's. You know what, Sarah? You probably have interesting opinions on this. What do you think about? Biden is now saying he's going to cancel student debt. I mean, I know a lot of people who are very passionate about this. What's happening here? I'll put it on
yeah. So you're canceling student loan debts or up to $10,000, which has been shown in study after study that it would go towards the wealthiest people. And so people that graduate from college have typically earn over $900,000 more in a lifetime than those who don't. And so you're saying you can't afford to pay back your student loans when you're making your opportunities to make more money. And this is on the backs of people who decide to work instead of going to college. Like this, I can't stand when people say that this is not, or this is a bailout for the rich. Like it's not a bailout for the middle class. The middle class is who's paying for this. Mm-hmm. So I just can't stand it. And then yesterday I've seen this article, and I was actually might do something on this because it's a university in Texas is offering a Taylor Swift class. And I'm like, your money should not be going to pay for Taylor Swift classes.
Wow.
Useless.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I skipped out on this whole thing.
I'm just going to read from this for anyone who's just listening. This is an article. I'm sure you've heard about this in the news already. The headline, this one happens to be from NBC. Biden to cancel up to $10,000 in federal student loan debt for certain borrowers and up to $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients. President Joe Biden announced Wednesday that he will cancel $10,000 in federal student loans for millions of borrowers, following through on a campaign promise to address the burden of student debt. Borrowers who earn less than $125,000 a year or $250,000 for couples who file jointly will be eligible for debt cancellation. It goes on, and I've seen estimates that this is going to cost us. This is about $300 to $500 billion worth of debt.
Yeah. It kicks the can down the road, basically, because they're not addressing the real issue, and the real issue is government-backed loans. So what happened is government backs these loans that can't be forgiven in bankruptcy, and so when the government does that, these colleges and these banks, they know that they're always going to get their money. So colleges actually lower like their entrance standards and stuff like that so that they can get more students. So they get more students, then they have to raise prices so that they can build more facilities, they can hire more teachers and do all this thing. So if you let supply and demand actually work, you wouldn't have this issue because schools would be well within their means of what people can afford. And afford on their face. And so you wouldn't have these schools having these higher rates and everything like that. So all this is doing is incentivizing people to take out more loans because the government will just come back and cancel them. And then it just kicks it down the road because it's not solving any of the real issues involved in this.
No, it's not. One of my, I just want to make something very clear, by the way. Somebody in the chat, Debony says, it'll clear my son's 6,000, so he'll take it, but I don't agree with it. Yeah, a lot of people I've seen online are like, don't be angry at the people who are getting their debt. I'm not. I'm angry at the government. I'm angry at the government, and I'm angry at the whole system, this cycle of failure. Part of the reason, college has become exponentially expensive, much more expensive than it should be, especially since most of these places are getting endowments, and then they're still hiking up the tuition to these astronomical rates so that students are being forced to take out these loans. Here's part of the reason why they're so expensive. This is a big thing, guys. This is what we need to be talking about. Any parents watching this, if your kids are college age, they have these bloated diversity, inclusion, equity staffs now. This article, this is from 2018. This is an article at the College Fix. So this is 4 years ago now. And so it's probably worse. But this article, it's called "At UT Austin, Diversity Related Staffers Cost $9.5 million Annually." So at UT Austin 4 years ago, their diversity staff, these are not teachers. This is administrators. This is bullshit, make work positions, bureaucracy. These people do nothing. They add nothing of value. If anything, they make it worse because they're indoctrinating your kids. This diversity department was 100 people big, 100 people at UT Austin, $9.5 million that they cost. And students have to pay their crazy salaries. They're not educators. They're administrators. Parasites.
Well, the administration costs have gone through the roof here in the last 10 years, 20 years too. It's just astounding. I actually just published something on my Substack yesterday that talks about so Nina, whatever her name is, super leftist. She let the cat out of the bag of what they actually want, and they want free schooling for everybody. They want everybody to be able to go to school. So I just wrote a little Substack article about the dangers of socialized schooling and what actually happens in socialized schooling and how you don't get to choose where you go to school. And I use stuff like talking about my friend Martha Bueno, who ran for commissioner of District 10 in Miami. She is from Cuba, and she told me the story of her dad who was sent to the gulags because when he graduated college, so first when he went to college, it was like you take an aptitude test and you get to choose from 3 different career paths. And then when you get out, if you don't join the Communist Party, they will actually send you to the gulag. So they will always get their money back. It's the same way with our military. Our military pays for schooling, but they get 4 years of you out of the military. So they will always get their money back. And I do also want to say too, I actually tweeted this yesterday and said, folks, take every bit of money you can get back from the government, period. They will steal more over your lifetime than you could ever get back from them. And so it's foolish. You would be a fool to not take some of them, like recoup some of that theft. I akened it to, like, if a thief comes into your house and steals a bunch of your stuff and the cops find your TV and that's all that they can get. And you're like, nope, I don't want my TV back because I want it all back type thing. You know, like they shouldn't have even come into my house in the first place. We need to stop all theft. So I'm not going to take my TV back. That is the exact same thing that you're doing if you don't take this money back. Like you take your money back, you paid it.
Take it back. But
and shoot, I collect a VA check every month. So I mean, you know, from them breaking me in the army. So I mean, I'm not one to tell you that you shouldn't take this money back from the government.
But you can also criticize what they're doing. I mean, it's like, I saw people being like, don't be critical of it. Why not be critical of it? What it's doing is it's incentivizing on a mass societal level. It's incentivizing making bad choices, taking out debts that you can't pay back. Yes, college is astronomically expensive, and maybe you shouldn't take out certain loans if you can't pay them back. Maybe you shouldn't major in gender studies or you know, critical studies if it's not going to pay enough to pay off your debt. And instead of learning from those mistakes, they're saying, don't worry about it. We're going to use men with guns, aka the government, the force of the law. We're going to use men with guns to have somebody else, a different taxpayer, the middle working class. We're going to have them pay back the debt the personal debt you took on. That's
the 87,000 new agents are going to come and take that.
It's bad culturally, like for what it teaches us as a people. That's what it's bad for. You know what I mean?
Like that's the point. I think to go back to, I think if you look at every single thing that's being pushed on us, it's as if it's by design how to create monsters. And to go back to what I was saying before, it's kind of another aspect of how a lot of these people only care about social pressure and appearances, because why does everyone just automatically go to college and study these ridiculous things? Because that's what you do.
Yeah. And it's a cycle though. Because a lot of those people who get these useless degrees, these social justice degrees, they can't find work unless they work at a college and university and join the 100-person diversity staff there, where then it's a cycle. Then other people are paying exorbitant tuition fees to cover their useless salary. It keeps building, but it will collapse. It's going to collapse.
Yeah. Well, it's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. And it has to be looked at in totality of the last 2 years as well, in addition to seeing the biggest government-sanctioned transfer of wealth from the lower and working classes to the richest people in this country. It's just all been about consolidating power. And this is just the latest example of that. God, though, I'm glad I didn't go. Like, I think we need to normalize work and not just like this sort of cycle of schooling and education. Like you said, it's just a cycle of scammery.
And if they can't get a job in the universities, they go teach in our elementary schools.
Oh, that's true. They could always do that. Speaking of,
I'm just glad I didn't go and take out loan. Like, I've always known what I wanted to do. I wanted to be creative. So instead I skipped on college and toured Europe, working with bands, touring with different bands. Like, I'm kind of glad. And I don't have any student debt.
I did take out student debt. I have paid it back. But you're right. A lot of people take it out when they're young and they're not sure how, you know, if they're going to be able to pay it back or not. My point is that it's a learning experience. I'm not saying it's right, but we're basically saying culturally, we're saying make bad decisions, don't learn from them, have somebody else pay for your bad decisions. It's like a bad lesson. I don't like policies that set up bad incentives. They always freak me out.
A lot of these kids are too young to understand the long-term consequences of it. So don't convince them to do it then.
Exactly. Fix the problem, not the symptoms. Like, okay, so I speaking of working, I have to go do my gig job. So I got to wrap up in about 10 minutes or less. I'm making furniture today. That's my new, it's fun. I get
most
covered.
Keri thing ever.
I get covered in sawdust and sweat. It's like real like cathartic and you're not online. It's not a computer job. It's all physical, you know, and you're off the internet and you're making beautiful things. And anyway, I'm very excited. So I got to run, but I want to put this up. Night Train says, thank you for the super chat, sir. He says, I just want to make it clear that I think Chris is a bad dude and definitely not indicative of trans, but his situation's crazy and been going on for decades. Yeah, we know. No worries, sir.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Thank you for telling me that. I can't wait to go watch all the true crime documentaries about him.
Well, yeah, just go watch. Like I said, Rose of Dawn did some great videos on him.
Great.
Pirate Tomsky says 4 more likes to hit 100, guys. Listen to Pirate. Help us get to 100. And this is really cool. I just wanted to highlight this one. Night Train says, I'm on the night train, bottles up, GNR, not to sound sycophantic, but Candace, Keri, and Gary gave me fortitude to give up the booze, but I'll still rock some GNR. I don't know what GNR is, but I will say this.
Guns N' Roses.
Oh, Guns N' Roses. Okay.
I think.
Or no, maybe he means Guns and Rosaries.
Is that a thing? That's kind of cool.
It's a joke now. I just, that's awesome. And congratulations for giving up the booze. Anybody that ever decides to do that, if you ever want to ask me questions about it, feel free. It'll be 3 years for me in October. So that makes me very happy. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. That's all I had to say. What do you guys have to say?
So I'll I think it's coming out on Sunday. I did an interview with the guys from Dangerous Rhetoric, and so I think that's coming out on Sunday. It's gonna be really great.
Cool.
It was an awesome interview. So we talk about a lot of the gender stuff in there, and I talk about some things that I don't think I've talked about in any other interview. So it's really cool, really fun. And then just go follow me across social media and look for me if you're in Richmond. Let me know and come out and see us on the 27th. Somewhere it's in Midlothian, Virginia. So yeah, that's it.
Cool. What do you have coming up, Mikey?
Oh, just making more videos, doing regular stuff. I have some awesome guests coming on my channel. Billboard Chris, Colin Wright, my mom. I'm doing a live stream with my mom. We're going to react to different videos and stories. So if you have any, I don't know, I got to look through libs of TikTok. There's probably some good ones to get her reactions on. You guys have to come on. I've started a new thing on my locals for my local subscribers where we're doing movie night and sort of do our own little like mystery science theater, giving commentary, different movies.
I will totally come.
So yeah, if you guys like my stuff, I'm trying to like invest more and do more regular stuff. So subscribe to my locals or something. I have new videos coming out. I'm doing a couple more impression-y kind of videos. I'm trying to work so funny. Oh, thank you. Today I'm doing my first. Well, we're still doing it anyway, but I was going to do my first ever Instagram live, and then I just found out that they banned me from live streaming. So we're still doing. I'm doing it with my friend Kieran. So it's still happening at 5 Eastern today, except on his account. So go to Woke Screen on Instagram, or just look at mine, CP Harlow.
Cool. One last super chat. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Matt Deckard, $4.99 says, if this socialism thing works, we'll all be wearing gold diapers by the time Biden is done. Go Biden. That always makes me laugh.
He needs to make more funny videos because he did one that was hysterical.
He's so funny. And then Andrew says, raid the like button like it's Trump's home. Yes. Raid it like it's Trump's home. And Peanut Butter, don't think I didn't see this. Peanut Butter says, imagine Keri Smith showing up to put together your couch. I'd scream. Hey, I've actually disassembled my own couch before, but.
Is it IKEA?
No, it was an old, like one of those nice Bassett couches, the wood frames, like the really nice. Anyway, it was a hard job. We figured it out, my husband and I. That's not what I'm doing today, though. I get to learn how to make tables. I'm still learning the staining process is what I'm doing. I'm not using any saws or anything, not yet. So
I've been, sorry, parentheses, but I've been like I'm possibly moving to Florida, so I've been looking into it and trying to figure out how to like lug all my stuff there. So I'm like, maybe I'll just like try to reverse IKEA it and like take it all apart.
Like, take everything
apart. I don't know.
Or you could try to sell it and just get new stuff there. Yeah. Either way. Yeah. I thought you were going to say in Florida, you're going to get a furniture making job. You should. It's fun. Yeah.
I'll be the person who saws my damn hand off.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Sara, Higdon, Mike, Harlow, for hanging out with us today on Deprogrammed.
I love
you guys can find links to their YouTube below in the video description. Thanks for hanging out with us for a live Kerfefe break. And also, thank you, Pirate Topsky, for moderating the chat today. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.